So now I would like to request Barrister Rashna Imam, Managing Partner, Akhtar Imam and Associates, to make her remarks.
Thank you very much. Respected Chair, Professor Ronak Jahan, special guest, Dr. Hussain Zillur Rahman, our moderator of distinction, Dr. Fahmida Khatun, Your Excellencies, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all, and happy belated International Women's Day. As a nation, Bangladesh has no doubt walked a few miles, I believe, towards gender empowerment, or women's empowerment rather. However, the road is still a very long one. And we have made progress so far as RMG is concerned, microfinance, a migrant female workforce is concerned, but so far as safety of women are concerned, human rights abuses are concerned, or even for that matter, income inequality or equal opportunity is concerned, I think we still have a very, very long way to go. Obviously, I don't want to put a damper on the event, but certain things I believe have to be stated again and again for us to actually internalize it and actually start working towards changing it. So I'll start with what I know best. In the last 20 years of my professional life as a lawyer in Bangladesh, I've come across many, many laws that are discriminatory in one form or another against women. So just to name a few, despite the alarming rise of sexual offenses against women over the years, it is shocking that we still have a provision that exempts marital rape from the offense of rape, as long as the wife is under the age of 12 or under. Despite the rise of sexual offenses, we still have a section in the Evidence Act that allows admissibility of character evidence in rape trials to destroy the credibility of the rape victim's testimony, which completely does not take into account, which is not only irrelevant, but it doesn't also take into account the fact that in most cases of rape or any other type of sexual offenses, there isn't many witnesses around. I mean, this is hardly an offense that is created in the public space. So the only piece of evidence, or one of the few pieces of evidence that we have in rape trials, is really the testimony of the witness and, of course, DNA evidence. So if we were to allow something that is completely irrelevant, which is whether the victim is of an immoral character or not, then this really is a huge step backwards so far as our commitment to rape law reform is concerned. I mean, there is, I believe, an NGO, a coalition of around 17 NGOs, and they have a 10-point demand for rape law reform. And surprisingly, none of those demands have been met. I mean, these are very well-researched demands that certain legal changes have to take place for any meaningful reform to rape law, but we haven't seen any of that materialize. On a slightly more positive note, some steps are being taken. I am aware that 2 public interest litigations have been filed to challenge these 2 sections, being the character evidence and the marital rape section. But it's yet to be seen what happens of these sections once the hearing is done and judgment delivered. And of course, moving on to another very controversial area, which is inheritance rights. I mean, how can we really speak of women's empowerment when we don't have equal inheritance rights? I'm not saying that successive governments haven't tried, but they have not tried hard enough, probably in the face of religious groups' protests time and again. But I think it's time that we really look into inheritance laws. And also, one more thing I'd like to mention is that Bangladesh has been, for quite some time, a party to the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, adopted by the UN. But, which is well and good, but we still maintain a reservation on Article 13A, which requires equality in inheritance rights. So far as Bangladesh is concerned, this is still a government-held position that men and women don't have equal inheritance rights. I think this is really, it's really time that we reconsider this reservation and take steps towards reforming inheritance rights of women as well. On a more personal note, Professor Ronak Jahan asked about the struggles. Well, the legal profession, like most of the professions in Bangladesh for that matter, is completely male-dominated. There's very low representation of women in the top tiers of the bar or the judiciary, for that matter. So needless to say that there were struggles all along. Despite me being considered privileged, because I am a second-generation lawyer, so I'm sure I did not have to face the brunt of the worst of what others have to face who don't come from a legal background. But even then, I'd like to start by saying that the atmosphere in the Supreme Court of Bangladesh is not conducive to women working there. By that, I mean basic things like toilet facilities. Even breastfeeding corner is a recent addition following a public interest litigation. It's not that this was introduced by the system itself. So breastfeeding corners, toilet facilities, sexual harassment for that matter, which no one speaks of as if this is a temple where this doesn't take place. It's as rampant there as anywhere else. And by sexual harassment, I don't just mean that it's limited to unwanted physical advance. You know, we have moved a long way so far as the definition of sexual harassment is concerned. This could be a message, an inappropriate message from a colleague that you're working. This could be a guy following you around from one court to another. I mean, I have so many female colleagues who, when they started out, would deliberately dress down to avoid unwanted attention and look downright shabby. And not professional, because they did not want to draw unwanted attention. So we need to look into that, and of course client perception so far as law practice is concerned. I mean, the immediate perception is that I'm not aggressive enough to make it in an adversarial environment like the Supreme Court of Bangladesh. So that is something I had to constantly fight against, you know, prove yourself again and again. Yes, I'm tough. Yes, I'm aggressive. I can do the job as well as a man can. And then finally, they get it, in the sense that finally, once they start getting results, clients at the end of the day are all very result-oriented. So they don't care if it's a man or a woman once they get past that initial phase. So once I started getting a little recognition for the good work that I did, the next glass ceiling appeared, which is income inequality. By income, I mean they feel that if they hire a woman lawyer, they're going to get away by paying me less for the same work. That mera to dedicated hoy, ora kaj onek korbe beshi taka poysha dite hobe na. Because the assumption is that I'm not the breadwinner. Ami shokhe kaj kori. So again, that is where the way I dealt with it was actually conduct a little market research, find out what your male colleagues are charging for the same service, and negotiate. I never hesitated to negotiate. So I'm very shameless when it comes to negotiating the fees that I think I deserve. So there was another struggle there. And of course, it used to infuriate me when I was underestimated, without even being aware of my abilities. I mean, I had umpteen incidents where the other side's lawyer walks into the court, sees, oh, there's a woman representing the other side. I'm going to demolish her. It's going to be an easy win. So initially it used to infuriate me, but over time I learned to capitalize that it's great if they underestimate me. I can actually make use of that, catch them off guard, they'll be underprepared and easier to demolish. So, so that's how it was overall, professionally speaking, and the low representation of women in the legal profession is, you know, one of the only way to change this would be to have female leaders in the bar. I mean, if we don't have women in leadership positions, the atmosphere is not going to change, because no one really has our interest in mind if you can't identify with the problems that we are facing. So we definitely need more women in the top leadership tiers, and that's the only way to go about it. Sorry, I believe I've taken up a little more time. Thank you.